What up? What up? TGIF. It's Friday, mother sucker. What this vertical thing? I don't know how I feel about this. I got a new holder for my car, and this one only go vertical. I think, based on the shape of my vents. I'm headed. I got a nice little trek ahead of me, about 80 miles. Consulting gig, you know how we do. Morgan Freelance. That is a zero. It's not an O. Morgan Freelance or whatever. Wasn't available. It has been. So I'm going to an office building, a creative firm. Ugh, that language. Even it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. So I'm wearing this long sleeve collar with a little emblem here. Got the little V-neck popping. You can't see it, but I got slacks and some uncomfortable shoes over there. I've been self-employed my entire adult life, and being an employee, never be an employee. That's my catchphrase. And I forget. I'm so unplugged from like office life, office culture, corporate culture. I was thinking. I was talking to my my client. And I was like, it's our first time meeting in person. It's always been remote. I was like, casual Fridays, right? Kind of joking, assuming that was yes, like everybody does casual Fridays. So I thought, and I was surprised. He was like, no. We don't do casual Fridays. And so I'm looking at my phone like, oh, well, good thing that I asked. And then it was kind of like, ... But we are a laid back creative agency, so, slacks in the collar, whatever he said, a business casual is how I took it. But yeah, I retired my monkey suit, as I call it, my suit and tie. When I left the litigation world. Did y'all know that? I used to do consulting for litigators. Man, that shit was boring. Woo-wee! It was interesting. Like what I found interesting, because my mind works like a journalist. So I like to learn about new things and have a bite-sized piece of data that I could wrap my mind around and absorb a new. Just enough to be literate, just enough to be dangerous, right? And I'm certainly that when it comes to the law. Gift and a curse. Some things you just don't want to know. Once you know how the sausage is made, you don't order it anymore. But appearances a lot in the courtroom. Decorum, posturing, optics. It's theater. I think they call it that, if I'm not mistaken. What I used to say it was, going to court or being in court feels like you are in a museum and a church, something like that. But it's very formal. You're expected to be very you bow to the court, not literally, but may it please the court, Your Honor. These phrases and language that you use, to me, is antiquated. Formalities in general, I feel like it's so inappropriate so often when you're dealing with human beings. That's my opinion. But yeah, I associate that monkey suit with that environment. Because that's where, I would say, for my parents, a career, you may never switch. You get a job and you go to the same office and then you retire. A lot of people had that trajectory, In my generation, a lot of people hopped around. A lot of people did the gig economy, which that's a whole another thing in California now. But you settle in for a routine, right? And you probably get comfortable in your monkey suit. And You know, you probably have the most uncomfortable suit you could get that looks the nicest for your interview, but fast forward to, you know, a few years before you're ready to retire, and you got the Skechers shoes that's good for your back. You know, the pants that they look like they're slacks, but they're actually they feel like pajama pants, you know. And for me, always comfort over style, with exception, of course. Do live dangerously close to Hollywood. Anyway, so yeah, I take it as I failed. Either somebody died or I failed if I'm wearing a monkey suit. And that may sound extreme, but that's how I feel. I think some people, they put on a suit and a tie and they feel self-importance. They feel like, oh, the world is going to treat me like I am somebody because I have a suit on. And I never felt that way. The best/worst that I ever experienced was people would mistake me for an attorney. I don't have a law degree. I spent more time in open court, you know, during an actual trial than 98% of litigators nationwide. Just because of statistics. I mean, you know, only 2% of lawsuits filed make it to a trial to get heard by a jury or heard by a judge, or both or neither, or the jury decides and the judge says nope. It's a whole nother thing. I'm very cynical. I'm very biased against the justice system. Yeah, right. But what I found interesting, which is why I fell into, gravitated towards that line of work for a spell, was seeing the jury process the facts, the evidence of the case. My favorite part, bar none, was voir dire, no, correct pronunciation, jury selection, in layman's terms. That's the best, man. Think about that movie. What's that movie? Keanu Reeves, Devil's Advocate, where he's like a jury consultant, and he's like, "Hey, check that dude out. He makes his own shoes. Watch out for that guy. You don't want him on your jury, even though he looks blah blah blah." You know, the attorneys get a chance to interview the prospective jurors, and if they don't like what they're saying, if they think they're going to be unduly biased against their client, against their case, they can think and dismiss a certain number of jurors. They're called preemptory challenges. And depending on the size and scope of the case, the jurisdiction, and all that, each side may have 3, may have 6. I mean, who knows how many the court will allow. So you can just straight up say, you know, in your head, I think this fool is going to be prejudiced against my client. I want him out of here. But you only get so many. So it's like playing chess. That's by far my favorite part. I think that most cases are won in jury selection, and or the personal relationship between the attorney and the judge. That is my observation. That is my experience. I would be mistaken for an attorney just because, you know, look professional, suit and tie. I'm clearly not a juror. I'm clearly not a defendant. And people would ask me legal advice in the hallways of the courthouse all the time. And I listen to them. I'm like, okay. I say, look, I'm not an attorney, but this is I can tell you after seeing dozens and dozens and dozens of cases, hundreds of cases. I said, does your attorney have a personal relationship with the judge? And if they say no, or I don't know, then I say, get a new attorney. That's it. End of story. You know, people that are outside of the system, or like a party, a case like a defendant, plaintiff, defendant, complainant, cross-complaining, whatever. They're looking at the facts, what they think are the facts of the case. One of the things that made me the most cynical about litigation and trials is the facts is not what the jury hears. The jury hears the evidence that the court, the judge, and precedent and law and whatever allows them to consider. This is evidence for your consideration to make a verdict. And a lot of horseradish happens in that particular part. Like, they'll kick the jury out, sidebar, kick the jury out, and they'll argue for a day or more about, does the jury get to hear this piece of information? That part used to drive me nuts. You know, give me all the data, let me decide. I'll never serve on a jury. If I do get called for jury duty by some happenstance, I will hope that one of the attorneys, should I be seated, ask me the right questions so I get off that jury. Because I'll tell the truth. And the truth is, I don't believe in this system because you three are going to conspire and pick what I get to see and hear and consider. I'm not with that. And once the verdict is in, the judge can change it anyway. So, man, I'm not bitter though. I do feel like I wasted a lot of anxiety on that because this is what I found. Being in that environment, being around people that are in conflict, right? If you're in a trial, that means there was a lawsuit that happened years ago, and you're finally just now getting to trial. All these billable hours, you know, attorneys charging upwards of $500 an hour, expert witnesses, public resources, and all this crap. I don't know, man. I just don't. I can't get with it. I tell people, you know, if you can't solve your differences over a handshake and a beer, you're never going to solve your differences. No one's going to win. The attorneys is going to get paid, and both parties are going to suffer. Like, there's no healing. There's this term called malingering, right? So think about a personal injury case. Get injured on the job, injured in a car accident, whatever. Other party's liable. Well, the jury, they don't really have context like, look, this happened 3 years ago. We're just now getting to trial. They don't have that knowledge of how the process unfolds. So if you look fine, like you're not injured, they're less likely to award you the amount of money that your team is probably looking to get. So you got to look hurt. And malingering means you are having you're exaggerating your symptoms, or you're unnecessarily making them continue on and on, even though you're better or you're healed. And that goes beyond the physical. People don't heal up here until their case is finished, and even far after that. It's very traumatizing, very traumatic experience to go through that. And so I felt like, even though I'm a neutral third party, you know, whatever, I still felt that nobody was happy to see me. The court staff sometimes get a good rapport going with the clerk, whatever. They're not totally embittered yet. You know, rare occasions, you know, that there would be a spark of joy. But for the most part, it's like going to the dentist. I heard that dentists have the highest rate of suicide amongst all the, you know, professions, and I think that's because so many people hate the dentist. Nobody is happy to see the dentist. Every time you have a client come sit in your chair, they're nervous, they're upset, they're sad, they're in pain. They don't want to see you, day after day after day. So that's what I was dealing with. It's like my client, maybe they're happy to see me, but they're not happy to be there. There is life at stake, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, metaphorically, economically, whatever. And, you know, only lost one or two cases. But the one that I'm thinking of, the last one that I did, like from top to bottom, where I consider it, if I'm there from the beginning of discovery, meaning the gathering of facts, the depositions, the building of the case, if you will, it messed me up, man. Like, you see people lose their freedom or lose their livelihood, and you don't know how it's going to go for them after that. You don't know, or somebody who is victorious and they win a large sum, or they get what they were looking for. Was it worth it? I would love to see a show about that, because they have one about the lottery, right? The lottery ruined my life. Well, court cases ruin people's lives too, and I had to get out. So I was independent. I was not employed per se, but I still felt beat down by the system, regardless of my independence. Did y'all hear this story a few weeks ago, a few months ago? I don't even know. Black gentleman was serving on a jury and showed up, I don't know, like 10 minutes late for the first day of trial or something, held in contempt of court, arrested, and like spent 3 or 4 nights in jail because it was the weekend or something. Crazy. And the judge, he was he said something like, I had to make an example, or like, you have to take this seriously. You're the only black juror. You're the only African-American juror, and your voice is creepy. Are you kidding me? Like, insult to injury. So many layers to that right there. And I just didn't like being there. My very first case that I ever worked on, I had a new cell phone, and I wasn't really familiar with how to use it. The settings and everything, I thought it was on silent. It wasn't. It went off in open court. The judge had the bailiff confiscate my phone for the day. And I was like, what? And I imagine if she was having a bad day, if I had reacted a certain way, it could have gone badly. You're in court. You can get held in contempt of court, go to jail. Ain't nobody safe when you're in court. I tell you that. You ain't safe unless you got a robe on. And even then, somebody's trying to take you out. You want your seat. Anyway, I'm about to go have a great meeting. Do some creative consulting, some brainstorming. It's my favorite part. Meet some good people, and generate some content for you fine folks. So have a great weekend. It's Face Your Fear Fridays. So do something that you've never done before, or something that you've been meaning to do but you're too scared. Work up the courage. Get it done. It's your boy Morgan Freelance. Freestyle Fresh. Wish I had a way to play a beat for you, but I don't, so I can't. And I don't care for the acapella. But if you recall, I am a CBD advocate. I got a special deal for y'all. I hope you can see it because of the sunshine. I hope you can see it. Go to canatonic.co. Use the code FRESH2020. Get 10% off your next order. And go back to episode 7 and get that super secret code on how you get yourself some additional discounts. Maybe it's free shipping. Who knows? It's a secret. I got a new iPhone today. I've actually been scared to do that because of all of the content I have on this phone, and I don't want to lose my contacts to my other phone, but I want the new phone. I dislike technology almost as much as I dislike litigation. Peace and love.